Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. Again, my name is Awod Ngwenya. I'm from Zimbabwe, Harare. To start off the meeting, would like to welcome you. Or I can see we have 20 participants on the meeting. Others are still joining. I thank you for joining. We appreciate all of you. To start off the meeting, I'm going to lead everyone of us in a prayer in my own indigenous language. Thank you all. Katina Matei. Tenzi maribaba tokutendai nechipo cheupenyu chamunotipazwaniswa. Tauya pamberi pechigaro chenyu Mwari, chikumbura rudo rwenyu nemweya wenyu mutsvene uye unogara matiri. Ndanamata Mwari Baba ndaisa vanhu vese Mwari Baba vari kubva mativi akasiyana siyana. Dai tenzi mungatitungamirira donzvo reve rimwe. Zvese zvatinoronga Mwari Baba nezvatinotaura zvikuwa zvinova zvinochinja mukati mekurarama medu. Zvichiro zvedu ndinoziva imwe neumwe wenyu ari pano. Dai mungatitungamirira Mwari. Zvese zvaitwa zvapera, mazita akuwanikwa akanyorwa mubhuku reupenyu. Ndanamata zvese tenzi tiisa program iyoyi nevanhu vese maspeakers Mwari Baba vari kuuya vachizotaura. Dai mungavatungamirira tenzi wangu, mabvisa zvikavatadzisa uye matitungamirira zvese zvatinoronga. Ndanamata zvese tenzi sami iyo mbiri yenyu kana usingaperi. Amen. Yes, again, I can see we still have 21 participants on this meeting. Whilst you are more than 700K members and ambassadors, please can you kindly send the link to our friends and family to join the meeting and discuss crises which are affecting Black people. Lined up today, we're going to have a guest speaker who stays in Poland to give us an update on what they did in helping Black people at the border of Ukraine and assist them with accommodation and food. We appreciate them. Also, our co-founder was there with the team, those who reside in Poland. So Maoneke Nephew today will be our guest speaker. And also, we're going to have a healthcare lecture with Nana Akua and Professor Wright, who lead us in the Pan-African organizing class. So we thank you all for joining and kindly invite more people to join us. I can see we have two low numbers. To start off the meeting, we're going to hear presentation from different countries. We're going to start with Minga Robson Mogaka. Yes, Minga Robson Mogaka is from Kenya. Can you give us an update on the report which you compiled about Kenya? Yes, you can unmute yourself.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, now I can hear you clearly. You can go ahead and give us a report for Kenya.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry for that long time I've been away. I'm now back. I'll go straight to Kenyan report. The dates from 6th March to 11th March 2022. Activities. Last Saturday, we had a Pan-African class session with Nana Akua and Zenzele and Dr. Tyreen Wright. Country spokespersons presented their weekly reports. Regular weekly newsletters was shared, which highlights on the 8 essential categories: health education and childcare, transportation, beauty, food, accommodation, finance and legal. Members were encouraged to recommend safe places for the Black people facing racism in the Eastern Europe.
Sorry, Robson, you are on mute. Can you unmute yourself again?
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, now you can hear you. You can continue.
Okay, thank you. Members and ambassadors were asked to record a 30 seconds video of message, love, and encourage to Black people who are facing racism in Ukraine. Members and ambassadors were encouraged to recommend safe places for Africans who are facing racism in Eastern Europe. Members and ambassadors were asked to prepare and submit weekly reports. COVID-19 updates in Kenya as per 11th March 2022. Cumulative confirmed cases, 323,160. Total recoveries, 317,465. Total fatalities, 5,644. Cumulative tests, 3,429,326. The report is presented by Minga Robson Mugaka. I am because we are. I love Black people, Ubuntu.
I am because we are Ubuntu. Thank you so much, Minga Robson Mugaka, for your wonderful report, keeping us updated on what is transpiring in Kenya. On next, we are going to have Derek Musonda. Unfortunately, she's not online. Brother Elijah Nyabuti. Yes, you can mute yourself and give us a presentation by Andrew Magombo of Malawi.
Andrew Magombo.
Yes.
Okay. Let me check.
All right.
On behalf of Andrew Magombo from Malawi, this is the Malawian weekly report, which is dated 11th March 2022, week under review, third quarter of March, 5th March 2022 to 11th March 2022. The summary of activities. We started our Saturday conference meeting by listening to our country spokesperson reports on the weekly activities in their respective country groups. Our most this was followed by Pan-African lesson and a healthcare session delivered by Professor Dr. Tyreen Wright and Queen Mother Nana Akua-Senzele, a traditional healer, founder of the Natural Path Holistic Wellness Center, LLC, respectively. Members and ambassadors were encouraged to enroll for Pan-African class Zoom meeting. On 6th March, members joined our brothers and sisters in Ghana in commemorating the Independence Day of Ghana, and members were asked to volunteer to help African diaspora to escape Ukraine by identifying safe places for them to acquire better services. Regular newsletter was shared, which highlights on our 8 essential categories, which is education, health, legal, finance, transportation, beauty, food, and accommodation. Announcement was made to the members to volunteer as ambassadors of I Love Black People from different countries. Members and ambassadors were encouraged to attend our online event, which aims on building global network to help and protect Black people from racism and xenophobia. Members and ambassadors were asked to prepare, write, and submit the weekly report. Social media accounts were shared to the group, and members were encouraged to subscribe, follow, like, share, and comment in all platforms with family and friends. Members and ambassadors were encouraged to attend every Saturday Zoom meeting, which aims in building global network to protect Black people from racism and xenophobia. It was recommended to invite members and ambassadors to participate in the Zoom conference on each Saturday, which ends the week. A leaderboard was shared, and members who managed to participate in tasks in our community were thanked. Members and ambassadors, moderators were asked to prepare, submit the weekly report. COVID-19 situation in Malawi as from 11th March 2022, the total number of confirmed cases were 85,486. Total fatalities were 2,620. The recoveries were 76,642. COVID-19 vaccination, first dose was 1,129,003. The booster shot was 58 people. Fully vaccinated were 828,080. Report was prepared by Andrew Magombo, ambassador from Malawi, and I am Elijah Nyabuti reporting on his behalf. I am because we are.
I am because we are. Before you go, Elijah, can you go ahead and present on behalf of our brother Derek Musonda? He's facing network challenges. Can you present on behalf of him for Zambia?
Yes, he has apologized. He's saying he's experiencing much rain where he is. So the report from Zambia is dated from 7th March 2022 to 11th March 2022. The country weekly activities, the country's representative and ambassadors were asked to give their weekly report, and those available to deliver their reports. Last Zoom meeting, we had interactive class session delivered by Professor Dr. Tyreen Wright and Nana Akua Senzele, a traditional healer and founder of Natural Path Holistic Wellness Center. Members were told to recommend Black-owned businesses. Regular newsletter which alerts on our 8 essential categories was shared. Social media account was shared to the group, and members were encouraged to follow, like, and comment in all platforms. Members and ambassadors were encouraged to always attend our online Zoom event, which aims on protecting Black people from racism and xenophobia using technology. Our moderators asked the members to prepare and submit their weekly report. The Zambia COVID-19 update, the report is as from 8th March 2022. The total confirmed cases were 314,159. Total tests were 3,295,300. The recoveries were 308,784. Vaccinated dose one were 1,066,577. Fully vaccinated were 2,087,025. Booster vaccinated were 44,070. COVID-19 fatalities were 3,959. The report was prepared by Derek Musonda from Zambia, and I am Elijah Nyabuti reporting on his behalf. I am because we are.
I am because we are. Thank you so much, Brother Elijah Nyabuti, for presenting on behalf of our two brothers in Malawi and Zambia, respectively. We appreciate you. On next, I'm going to read a report from Burundi, a weekly update on what was transpiring in Burundi, and it was prepared by our moderator, Nettle Kanyangi. Unfortunately, I think she is facing network challenges as well. She's not with us on this call. I love Black People Burundi reports, weekly reports, dated March 5th, 2022, week under review, second quarterly of March, 26th February 2022 to 12th March 2022. Summary of activities. We started our Saturday's conference meeting by enjoying our usual spokesperson report on the weekly activities in their respective country groups. Our most entertainment Pan-African class and the author class sessions was delivered by Professor Dr. Tyreen Wright and Queen Mother Nana Akua Senzele, traditional healer and founder of the Natural Path Holistic Wellness Center, ALC. Members and ambassadors were asked to enroll for Pan-African classes on Zoom meetings. Members were asked to recommend Black-owned and Black-friendly business in our country and the community. Regular newsletter was shared which highlight on 8 essential categories, which are education, health, legal, finance, transportation, youth, food, and accommodation. We were told to submit articles for publication. Announcement was made to members to volunteer as ambassadors of Love Black people from different countries. Members and ambassadors were encouraged to attend our online event, which aims to build a global network to help and protect Black people from racism and xenophobia. Members and ambassadors were asked to prepare and submit weekly reports. Social media accounts were shared to group, and members were encouraged to follow, like, tweet, and comment on many platforms. Members and ambassadors were encouraged to attend every Saturday Zoom meeting, which aims to build a global network to help and protect Black people from racism and xenophobia. It was recommended to invite members and ambassadors to participate in the Zoom conference each Saturday, which ends in the weekend. Members and ambassadors and moderators are asked to submit their reports for every weekend. A report compiled by Nettle Kanyange from Burundi, and a quick updates on Burundi news, whereby motorcycle taxis and what they call tax were now prohibited in Bujumbura from the effect from March 11th. It was for everyone to know in Burundi that the taxis were prohibited to enter the Bujumbura town center, I think. Yes, also on another note, would like to be with our brothers and sisters in Malawi. Some of them couldn't join us today. I can see Brother Kassim is with us. He gave an update that there are floods in Malawi with a tropical cyclone, Anna. But I think the situation is being controlled at the moment and no casualties. We appreciate that, and we are with our brothers and sisters in Malawi. So on next, I'm going to invite our special guest speaker. She is a Zimbabwean. Her name is Elise Maoneke, and she resides in Poland, and she wants to give us an update on the work they did in helping Black people from the borders of Ukraine who were fleeing from the crisis, the war crisis of Ukraine, which we all know about. So our sister, Elise, is also an ambassador, is our ambassador, Elise Maoneke. How are you?
Hello, everyone.
Greetings, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I think I have been already introduced. So I'm just going to tell about the background here with our current situation of African facing racism on the border of Ukraine. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, there are many reports of Black people being refused at the border crossings in favor of white Ukrainians, leaving them stuck at the border. The Ukrainians said that they will first allow the women and children on trains and transport out of the country. However, it seems they've meant Ukrainian and European women and children only. Heartbreaking videos have been circulating of Black African women with babies being left in the cold just because of their skin color. Furthermore, Black people, there are also videos showing Black people being pushed off the trains, and also there are also reports of animals being allowed on trains and other means of transport before Africans. For those who managed to get into the train, they were forced to pay for the transport, which was supposed to be free. And currently, there are about 600 African students trapped in Sumy State, which is in the east of Ukraine and 60 kilometers from Russian border. The students cannot leave as the routes linking them to the Polish border were destroyed. So right now, the students are currently stuck, But recently this morning, I heard that there are some students from Morocco who were able to cross the border from Ukraine. So what we have done is I Love Black People. On Monday 7, we were accompanied by our co-founder, Mr. Sinclair Skinner. We managed to go to Medica border. We managed to saw one of our Cameroonian brother William, who is just we managed to talk to our brother who have just crossed from Ukraine, and we managed to talk to him. He has been in Ukraine for 8 years, and it was just heartbreaking that for such a long time, he was only able to come out with a satchel from Ukraine, and he had some issues with his passport, but he was being assisted by our African brother from Morocco, Brother Jay, and currently we are making some follow-up with Brother William. Currently he's in Berlin and he is safe. On the Medica border, we also managed to talk to the consulate of Nigeria. He was also waiting for students from Sumi, and he was hoping that there might be a ceasefire so that he will be able, so that there will be possibility of evacuating the African students from the Sumi state. Then on Tuesday, went to another border, which is called Heaven. We managed to saw our African brother called Daniel, who was also coming from Ukraine, and he stated that they've been at the border for quite a long, but he managed to come with his family and friends. So with all these, with our brother, we managed to help him financially, and even our brother from Cameroon, Brother William, managed to assist him financially. Then right now, the problems that are being faced by our brothers from Ukraine and sisters is accommodation and transport from the border, and some of them need legal assistance on what to do since they are here in Poland. And another, we also want our government, our African governments, to intervene so that our brothers and sisters from Ukraine can travel safely here. We have also managed to work with some organizations who are already assisting our brothers and sisters, such as Africa Connect and Porter Foundation in Poland. I am because we are. Thank you.
I am because we are. Thank you so much, Sister Elise Maone, for giving us an update on what is transpiring and what we have done so far at the borders of Ukraine in assisting our brothers from Cameroon, and also talking to the consulates of Nigeria, and also giving us this update so that everyone knows what you did. I also heard that you managed to give those who are facing challenges financially. We appreciate that. We thank you for the effort which you did, and also for assisting our co-founder going through Poland and at the borders of Ukraine. Hopefully you will be safe. Thank you. All right. Lined up for the next lectures, we're going to have a lecture from Nana H.U.R, who's going to lead us in a holistic healthcare lecture. And also, lastly, we are going to have Dr. Tyreen Wright to lead us in the Pan-African organizing class, the history of Pan-Africanism. These online classes are for free, and we encourage every one of you to invite our friends and family to join. At the end of the classes, people are going to be awarded with certificates of completion. So these also are for free. So we urge all of you to come and also to invite your friends and family to join the class. As you know, Dr. Tyreen Wright, she's a professor at the City of New York University in the United States, and she's the one who's who leads these Pan-African organizing classes. So we need to learn more about Pan-Africanism and its philosophy as Black people, so that we know where we come from and where we're headed, and also our history. So I can see we only have 36 participants. Please, can you go ahead and invite your friends and family to catch up with Nana H.U.R. in the next 5 minutes. She'll be leading us in the Pan-African Holistic Healthcare Lecture. So please, let's invite more friends and family to join us. As long as they have data, we can share the ID, no passcode needed. They can join and learn more about Pan-Africanism. Another update, a quick update, which I want to let everyone know is we are in the final stages of our application, and I'm glad to announce to you that you are the first people who are going to use the application before it's even on Google or App Store. So you are the first people. We are going to share the link so that you start using it and also give your opinions and feedbacks. This application is going to guide us, and also is going to make it easier for us to recommend safe spaces for Black people. So we encourage all of you to download the application and use it. So we are going to share the link in our WhatsApp group. Those who are not on WhatsApp, I'm going to share the link in the chat section so that you can join. And also I'm going to share the Pan-African Organizing Class waiting list on Facebook. Yes, it's they on Facebook, but I'm also going to share it here on Zoom so that you can invite your friends and family to join these classes for free, and they get a chance to learn more about our love Black people. Okay, is brother Nassim wanted to have brother Kassim from Malawi to give us an update on how far it is with Cyclone Anna. But I think, yes, brother Nudin Kassim, if you can unmute yourself and just give us an update in less than 5 minutes, just what's going on in the areas which were affected.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, brother Kassim. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm good. How is the network going that side due to this cyclone, and also electricity? And are there any casualties on your side?
Of course, we've had some bad weeks in the I think last month, but currently the situation has improved so far, and thankfully the government and some non-government organization jumped in, and a lot of people have been helped. So far, we have started experiencing another huge rains from yesterday. Currently, as I'm speaking, I'm at the office just because a lot of areas doesn't have electricity now. So we've had no electricity from last night until now. We're using backup now. So, but thankfully, I haven't yet had or heard any reports or bad news about our friends who are mainly in those areas that are always affected with these huge rains. Yeah, so far so good. The rains are coming. Everything is still okay. Whatever pops in, I'll let everyone know. But otherwise, everything is okay for now.
All right, thank you so much for the update, Brother Kassim. We appreciate that for giving us a short update on what's going on in Malawi.
Thank you
We
so much.
really care about each and every Black people around the world. So we'll be checking on each and every one, and we're going to do an email blast, sending an email, checking our brothers and sisters who stay in Malawi if they are okay, and also to ask on how best we can assist as an organization to protect them on these times of disasters. We appreciate
Thank
that.
you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All
So
right.
much.
I thank you. Others were asking what are we going to get for the motivation for attending the Pan-African class. First thing is we are going to acquire like something like a knowledge of our history, and also a certificate of completion, which is going to be issued out to each and everyone who submitted their names for the certificates. So this class is going to run until month end, and also we do have a waiting list for others who also want to start the class. So we are all free to invite your friends and family to come and join us. Some of you might wonder what Love Black People is doing in terms of protecting Black people from racism and xenophobia. What we do, as we all know, we ask you to recommend safe places for Black people to visit, either Black friendly or Black owned. So we come up with an online digital guide, which is aloveBlackPeople.com. We encourage all of you, for those who have joined us for the first time, you are free to always visit our website and recommend more safe spaces for Black people to visit, where they will be treated with dignity and respect. We appreciate each and every one of you. You know, you did a great job when we launched the movement. This movement is also powered by H.U.R Inc., which is a tech company, which is the one which came up with the idea of having this movement of Love Black People. And our co-founders, for those who are new with us, I can see the quite number of people who joined us who are new. Our co-founders are Mr. Christopher Mapondera is a Zimbabwean, but he stays in the United States, and also Mr. Sinclair Skinner he stays in the United States, and all of them are engineers, but they come up with this brilliant idea of an online digital guide to help and protect Black people from racism and xenophobia. So all the safe places which you recommended, and we uploaded them on our online digital guide, which is aloveBlackPeople.com. If not, you can go and visit the aloveBlackPeople.com online digital guide and recommend more safe spaces for Black people to visit. Anywhere in the world, you can recommend a safe space, as long as we were treated with dignity and respect in those areas. And also, we focus on 8 essential categories, which I did mention during the reports. You are all advised to recommend safe places in those categories. We appreciate each and everyone. I can see we're only 36 participants. Let's continue and invite more people as you have to start the Pan-African Holistic Healthcare lecture with Nana Akua. Yes, I can see Nana Akua have joined, so she's going to start a bit 2 minutes earlier today. Yes, Yvonne, can you unmute Nana Akua?
Good morning, good afternoon, good morning, good evening.
Good morning on your side, Nana Akua. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fine.
How are you, Award? Hi, Yvonne. I see your face popped up. Hello, everyone. Jerome, Joshua, and Niku. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Mohammed. Love to see you all. You know, I was sitting here trying to pull my little handouts up. We'll see how successful I was with that. But I also would like to ask Yvonne or Award, are you able to put them on, share the screen for me, or do I need to do it each time?
No, we can share the screen for you.
So next time I'm gonna make sure you all have the packets, and each week I think I'd like to let you all do that so I can stop fumbling with this, right? So let's see how we do. So if you'll let me share the screen, let me see if I have been able to pull it up. It's still saying I'm not able. Okay. Oh, I think it's there.
All right.
Is it there?
Yes, I
Can you see? Well, mangosteen, I see, is what's on the screen, right?
Yes.
Very good. Well, thank the Lord for all things, even this small one like me being able to share this information. So good day, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Pan-African Healthcare class. This is week 2 in our cycle. And we are going to talk about my favorite topic, which is herbs. So there's a whole lot of handouts about this topic. I'm an herbalist first. That is my first love. And so I have a lot of information. I've added to this information from previously. Because I had kind of scaled it down because this is just an hour course. And this is something that I kind of do sometimes as an all-day seminar. I have it in a 3-part series and I break it down, you know, so it's so much that can be discussed, but given the time frame, I had tried to streamline it. But what I found is I can still give the information, try to go over some of it, but then let you have access to the additional handouts so that you can study on your own, use them as references, and be able to kind of go back and look at it further as need be, or as, you know, your interest, you know, leads you. So this second week, we are focusing on herbs, but we're also going to talk about, I think, essential oils. We're going to talk about homeopathic remedies, and we're going to talk about superfoods. So I'll try to split them all up equally. But again, me being a lover of herbs, we'll probably focus on that. So this first handout, I like how they list sort of a lot of the different herbs and what they do and what their traditional uses are. But also, I like how it also gives you conditions, right? And it highlights what herbs are used for certain conditions: urinary disorders, arthritis, hypertension, diabetes, things of that nature. However, I do want to just go to a couple of items that I compiled. This natural medicine chest, I compiled this, and I'm not going to go over this one first, but this article that I wrote some years ago, I wanted to start with this because this is pretty much a list of some of my favorite herbs. So I think this is a great place to start. There's so many herbs. Herbs do so much for the mind, body, and spirit. You can always learn and add to your knowledge about herbs, but I wanted to use this handout as just sort of a starting point. So I called this article Herbal Aids, Nature's Cure. And again, I'm not proclaiming that any of these herbs will cure or treat or heal a particular condition, but they will. But my purpose here is to simply provide the information. It's for educational purposes. It is not me saying that if you take these particular herbs, it will treat a particular condition. What's outlined here is the traditional uses of these herbs. So let me just start out. Herbal medicine is defined as the medicinal use of herb plants and trees to regain and or maintain health. Herbs are used to cleanse, detoxify, rebuild, and tone in order to bring the body back into balance. Mother Nature should be appreciated not only for her beauty, but also for her valuable resources of wild foods and medicines. These wonderful cures from the earth are often neglected and underrated, and one should always attempt to heal themselves naturally before even considering unnatural or artificial means. There are herbal cures for nearly every disease or dis-ease or illness known to man. Here I'll provide a list of herbs that every household should contain. We should have herbs such as valerian and ginger on hand, just as we have on hand aspirin and Alka-Seltzer. Better yet, we should have these herbs and natural supplements instead of these man-made items. They should really be replaced altogether. So this writing will help you start in terms of making that transition. So some of the items listed below are sort of easy to find, easy to make herbals to have on hand for everyday health complaints. So the first one I highlighted here is ginger. Ginger has traditionally been used to cleanse the colon, reduce spasms and cramps, stimulate circulation. It's a strong antioxidant. It's effective in fighting off any disease-causing microorganism, whether it's bacterial, viral, fungal, bacterial. It's good for sores and wounds, good for circulatory issues, indigestion, morning sickness, nausea, vomiting, bowel disorders, in a number of situations. You can use it in tea form, you can use the extract or the tincture, or you can use it in capsule form. And we'll talk about essential oils in a moment, but we can also, of course, use it for or with the essential oils in our baths, in our diffusers, as a topical compress, in herbal products for the skin and body. So ginger is one of my favorites, definitely a must-have. And let me just, as a side note, talk about what a tincture or an extract is. So you have the herb in its natural form, so the plant. And in this regard, ginger is the actual root, the part that is pulled from under the ground. And usually you'll peel that thin skin off of it, and you will either mash it, cut it, macerate it in some way, right? And you can then make it into a tea, or you may powder it and grind up the root. If you have ground up the dried ginger, or if you've used the fresh ginger pieces, if you extract it in a menstruum or a solvent, such as grain alcohol, vinegar, vegetable glycerin, in Ayurvedic medicine, the people in India often use goat's milk a lot as a solvent to extract the power from herbs. But any of these solvents can be used to pull out the essence of an herb. And you usually will let that sit in that solvent for a period of 10 to 15 days, or you can even let it sit for weeks or months even. But when you then strain off that powdered herb or the fresh herbs from that solution, you bottle it, you have an extract, or an old school term, a tincture. And you usually will take it drops at a time. So it may be 40 to 80 drops, which is usually anywhere from, say, a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. Depending on what herb it is, you may take it directly. Other more bitter or stronger herbs, you may add to a little bit of water to make it more palatable, right? And you're using it as, medicine in that way. Of course, we know what tea is, where we're infusing the herb with water, usually by boiling water and adding, say, the flowers or the leaves of a herb into it. Or if you're using the bark or the root, a harder part of the plant, then usually you're adding it to room temperature water, and then you're simmering or boiling the herb in with the water to get that extraction or that infusion. And then, of course, capsules is usually the powdered form of an herb that's been encapsulated. And of course, what we want in this regard is usually a vegetable-based capsule. Gelatin capsules, we know, are derived from pork. So I always caution folk, unless you in love with Mr. Piggy and that's part of your diet, it won't so much matter to you if you're doing a gelatin capsule. But I usually always advise people to be cautious about what types of encapsulated herbs they use, and that it's a plant-based or a vegetable cellulose capsule, meaning that it's not made from it's a nervine herb. So it deals with the nervous system. But it's also good for reducing mucus from the body during a cold. It's good for anxiety. It's good for fatigue. It's good for high blood pressure, insomnia, muscle spasms and cramps, stress, a number of things. Valerian is not a great tasting or smelling herb. So this is one that you're going to want to take in capsule form. I have it written here to do as tea or tincture or extract. You're not going to want to do that. This one you're going to want to take in capsule form. But it's one of my favorites. So it's very good, very powerful. It's powerful, but mild enough for pregnant women, for seniors, for children. So it's not a stimulating type of herb where you would be cautious as to how often you take it or who you give it to. It just doesn't smell very nice. Cayenne is another great herb. We know that cayenne pepper is hot. So we know that we're going to use this in capsule form because of the heat on it. But we know that just like with heat, it kind of gets things going and moving. This is how cayenne aids the body. So it helps with digestion, circulation, helps stop bleeding. It's good for the heart, the kidneys, the lungs, the pancreas, the spleen, the stomach, right? A lot of organs. And a lot of herbal formulas will add cayenne to just increase the effectiveness. It's sort of considered a carrier herb. And we know that it'll help with sinus infections, colds, sore throats, things of that nature as well. And then we know topically it's great for relieving pain. So it may be applied to liniments and herbal salves and ointments and things that we may apply topically for pain. Garlic is another one. We know that garlic is a food. We do also consider it a herb. We know that this detoxifies the body, protects against infection, enhances immunity, lowers blood pressure, improves circulation. It's excellent for arthritis, asthma, cancer, circulatory problems, digestive problems, heart disorders, liver disease, sinusitis. The list goes on and on. If you can use it fresh, that's great. You can also get odorless tablets if the smell is offensive to you or people that you're around. But garlic is definitely something that is good to add into your diet. Whether you're cooking with it, you can also add it to your juicer. If you are juicing some greens and cucumbers and celery or something like that, adding a little bit of garlic to that will get it in the fresh form. Without having to just always take it in pill form. But again, it's very strong. It's one of those things that can be offensive. So you'll have to figure the best way to incorporate that. Some people will just chew the actual cloves of garlic directly. Those are real soldiers there. I'm not really doing that. But whatever suits you, garlic is excellent to add into your diet for a number of reasons. Rosemary, this fights bacteria, relaxes the stomach, stimulates circulation and digestion, acts as an astringent and a decongestant. It's great for headaches, high and low blood pressure, so it regulates the blood pressure. And it does that because it helps with the circulatory system. Also good for menstrual cramps. So this one you can use really in any form. You can drink it as a tea. You can use it in capsule form. Definitely you can cook with it, adding it to your meals, your foods. Charcoal is one I put on the list. Not technically a herb, but this is one of those natural remedies that I do suggest having on hand, especially if you travel, especially if you're sensitive to different foods, or if you're prone to trying different foods that may or may not agree with you. Charcoal basically helps remove toxic substances from the colon and the bloodstream. So if you feel like you've eaten something that didn't agree with you, so you're having a type of food poisoning or a negative reaction to something you've consumed. If you've eaten something in your travels and you're having diarrhea and you need to kind of flush it out of your system, you're having some upset stomach, gas, activated charcoal is excellent for that. So it's an antidote for nearly all poisons, okay? In powder form or capsules is how you can use this. Aloe vera, This is applied topically, as we know, for burns and other wounds topically, but all because it helps with skin, it helps the cells in the skin rejuvenate and regenerate themselves. But also we know that internally it's excellent for the whole entire gastrointestinal tract. So it's soothing to the stomach, it's soothing to the intestinal tract, it acts as a mild laxative, so it will help move waste out of the body. It's good for removing disease-causing microorganisms like bacteria, viruses, fungus, things of that nature. It's used for skin and digestive disorders, and has also been reported as being used for AIDS and HIV. You can use the gel form, or you can use the actual juice, the juice of the gel. But you want with aloe to be using the whole natural aloe, not aloe drink, but you want it to be 100% aloe vera juice or aloe vera gel. But a lot of Asian markets, for example, sell these aloe drinks, and these have added sugars and things to it. This is not what I'm referring to now. Elder or elderberry, this is great for building the blood, cleansing the system, boosting the immune function, easing constipation. It's good for inflammation. It increases perspiration, lowers fever, soothes the respiratory tract, stimulates circulation. This has been a big, I guess, well used and talked about herb during this whole COVID piece. A lot of formulas you've heard, you know, the use of elderberry. Usually you can make a syrup of it and use it as a cough syrup or cough suppressant. But for all of these things that I just mentioned, it's good for all of these things. And you can do it also in tea or extract or tincture form. But most people, you hear of them using or making an elderberry syrup. Peppermint, another favorite of mine. This enhances digestion by increasing stomach acidity. So it helps kind of food move out of the stomach faster and go through the rest of the digestive process. It's useful for chills, colic, diarrhea, headache, heart trouble, indigestion, nausea, poor appetite, rheumatism, spasms. Has a lot of uses. Most of us only look at it as something to kind of settle our stomachs and help with digestion, but it also has some other benefits in terms of the headaches and the muscle spasms and rheumatism. So that's maybe something a lot of people didn't know. And just like ginger, this is a popular essential oil. So a lot of times you may use it in tea form or the actual herb itself, but this is something that's often used in the essential oil form. So you may add it to your baths, or you may add it to your diffusers or your sauna steams, or your anywhere where you can get the aroma into your system and really benefit from that. So the herb itself, but also the essential oil is widely used. The next two, I listed these together. They don't necessarily have to be together. I do explain them separately here, but most times, or a lot of times, you can find them in a tincture or extract together. So they complement each other well. So echinacea is an anti-inflammatory and an antiviral herb. It's good for the immune system. It's good for the lymphatic system. It's good for colic, colds, flu, infectious illnesses, even good for snake bites. Goldenseal acts as an antibiotic, so it cleanses the body, clears out bacteria and viruses and other, microorganisms. It's also good for inflammation, ulcers. It's good for a lot of the organs such as the colon, the liver, the pancreas, the spleen. Also good for the lymphatic system. So it has a lot of uses. Goldenseal, though, is one of those that you would usually take note to not use on an ongoing basis. Usually 7 days at a time is going to be the safest way to use this. Take a break from it, start back at a later time. But usually especially if you're using it for colds and flus and things like that, within that time frame, you're gonna get some relief if that's the right remedy for you anyway. Now, while certain herbs will do a number of things, not every herb is for everybody at any one given time. So if you're trying Echinacea Goldenseal and that's not really getting it for you, then you would go to something else, some elderberry or some nettle or some other, herbs that are healing. So that's generally how that works. These you will use in either a tincture form. You may get them encapsulated. Goldenseal is sort of a bitter herb, so it's not the greatest, but it's definitely not the worst tasting herb. So you may use those in extract form or in capsule form. Lavender, most people will only use lavender in terms of an essential oil. However, people will use it internally in tea form because it does relieve stress and depression. But it's also good for headaches, psoriasis, a number of skin conditions, burns and such. So a lot of times you'll find lavender in bath and beauty products with the essence coming from the essential oil, and it's added to these products to enhance the efficacy. But you can also drink lavender tea. Skullcap is another one. This aids in sleep, improves circulation, strengthens the heart muscle, it's good for anxiety. It's also a sedative or nervine herb. So it's good for headaches, hyperactivity, when you just sort of need to calm down, get some sleep, relax from a stressful day. It's also good for muscle cramps, pain, spasms, and all of those types of things. And also good for just overall drug withdrawal, but specifically barbiturate addiction. But again, because it's a sedative, it will help ease the symptoms of coming off of some sort of substance. It just allows the body to receive it better, and especially since it'll help with headaches and spasms and things like that, which really usually is the physical response for some of the withdrawals from certain substances. Nettle, another one of my favorites. This is a really highly nutritive herb, has a lot of high mineral content, vital minerals that the body needs. And how it is helpful is it's a diuretic, it's an expectorant, it's a pain reliever, it's a tonic, it's excellent. It's great for hay fever and allergy and sinus sufferers. So that's really a really big thing for a lot of people who suffer with these, whether it's seasonal allergies or whether it's chronic sinus infections that may happen any time of the year. It's really good for that. Because of the mineral content, is good for goiters and thyroid health. It's also good for inflammation, and it's also good for releasing, or because it's an expectorant, it's good for releasing mucus from the lungs. This one you can use in tea form, extract form, capsule form, whichever suits you. This doesn't have a really strong taste. It kind of, I'll say it has a green, kind of vegetable-y taste, because it's really high in chlorophyll, which is what makes, gives it all that mineral content, but that's what makes these green leafy vegetables green. So it kind of gives you that kind of feel, but not a bad taste. Crane's bill, I think, is the last one on this list. Not a very popular one, but I think an underrated herb. So this I thought was important enough to add to the list. This is an astringent herb. So it's good for the stomach, the intestines, the liver, the heart. It's good for diarrhea, colitis, dysentery, anything associated with bleeding especially. So it helps to stop internal and external bleeding. Often used for women with uterine fibroids, where there's a lot of blood and bleeding during the cycle due to the fibroids, but also can be very beneficial for a cut or some other kind of bleeding disorder topically, or other types of internal bleeding. Crane's bill, which comes from the geranium family, is really good to have on hand because of that alone. But can also, again, be used for some female issues, such as discharge, excess bleeding, hemorrhaging, and things of that nature. So this, and I wanted to, the last little part here talks about the importance of growing herbs. So I want to just say a little word about that. If you are able to, whether outside, if you have the ability to have land that you can grow food and herbs, or if you are not, and you can get pots and do some growing inside, I definitely create herb, kind of creating a situation where you can have and grow your own medicine. I think that's an excellent option. It's very empowering. And then of course, if you can expand to growing some food, even if it's just tomatoes, or even if it's just peppers or cucumbers, these are all very easy things. Most herbs are very easy to grow. Very easy to grow. Sage, peppermint will grow everywhere. Fennel will grow everywhere because those seeds will fly off and they'll germinate all over the place. But even things like burdock, which is an excellent liver cleanser and blood purifier, also very easy to grow. So, you know, it's very empowering to be able to grow your own foods. This handout here gives some herbal first aid suggestions. So if you're outside, you get a cut or a scrape, or if you're traveling and you take in something, you know, bad. And these are a little different from the ones I've highlighted. So I thought this was good to add here because we haven't mentioned calendula or calendula. We haven't mentioned chamomile. I did just mention fennel about growing the herbs, lemon balm, marshmallow root, red raspberry. These are some additional things that you can reference for any kind of health issue that arises that you can kind of quickly, you know, address with these types of things. Same thing here, the healing herbs and spices. Our medicine cabinet doesn't have to be in the bathroom, right? It can be in the kitchen, right? So usually we might keep our medicine chest, you know, in that little mirror, you know, chest in our bathrooms, but we know that the kitchen will contain a lot of healing herbs as well. So this handout points out some of the herbs or spices that we generally will cook with, but that also have healing benefits as well. And I won't go through each of these, but what I'll just say is most of these herbs that we do typically cook with, most will help with the digestive process. So I think intuitively, we just started using certain foods to season, certain herbs to season our foods with, but maybe unknowingly or maybe knowingly, we picked ones that do assist with digestion. So that's not listed here for all of these, but most of these do aid in digestion as well as the additional things that they assist with. So I'll leave that for you to go through. Now, because a lot of our class is on the continent, I wanted to, and this is something I usually do in terms of my regular traditional herbalism course, I have a section on African herbs. I have a section on Asian or Chinese herbs. I have a section on Ayurvedic or Indian herbs. I have a section on Native American herbs. I have a section on South American or Amazonian herbs. So, award. So I have someone trying to get access to my screen. I don't usually even say this, but this happens a lot. And then usually Sarah J. and now Fiona R. So I'm assuming that soon there are going to be these trolls that are going to give these foolish messages. So let's see what they do. But I have a Fiona R and whatever the first name I just said. They're trying to get access to my screen. So let's keep an eye out on them
immediately.
Yeah, they're requesting to control the screen. That's usually when it starts, we start getting these crazy messages in the chats. They'll try accessing the screen to put crazy stuff on. So just keep a mind out. I don't remember those names from previous classes. So I usually will highlight indigenous herbs from different parts of the planet. And so I wanted to highlight some of the literature that I could find from West Africa and South Africa. And I know that doesn't include everyone, right? So I know there are a lot of East African folk here. Now we got Lana, who's trying to access. So yeah, definitely these are some folk trying to disturb the class, but I'm gonna move on. But I just wanna make you aware, Award.
All right, we were currently removing them on our class now.
Thank you. So, and I know, again, sometimes I'm just trying to find information that is sort of written out, documented, but again, it does not take away from your traditional healers and from Fiance JR. Oh, I see they busy. And so what we want to do is, you know, if we are in an area and you are interested in herbs, especially if you can't access some of the herbs that I've mentioned here, I always suggest going to your local healers and your traditionalist. And now it's Derek J. Remove all these folks. Oh, they go, okay. It's so many, I can't even name them all. So now they're just popping all up on my screen. N-O-O-R, Nor. So, so let's talk about, so some of the ones that's listed here as West African herbs, we've already gone through some of those. So of course, you know, you're familiar with things like aloe. I think neem is on this list. Okay, yes. Ahmad A, no thank you, Ahmad A. Let's get rid of him. So neem, you know, originally supposedly came from India, but through colonialism and colonization, it was kind of brought, and now it grows in East Africa and West Africa. Oh gosh, now they're getting with crazy names. Okay, all right. I ain't gonna even mention that one. So neem, we know, is excellent for tropical fevers. We know that it's good for skin, you know, conditions. You can use it in your hair, but a lot of the tropical fevers that you will find in different parts of Africa, neem is excellent for. But we also know that it's good for fungus. It's good for different skin conditions. And usually people will make it into a tea. You know, you'll boil it, you'll infuse it down, you'll drink it. Some people will bathe in it. It's known to ward off mosquitoes and things like that. But if the mosquitoes have won, at least temporarily, it will also help, you know, kind of keep away some of the illnesses and infections that yeah, they're sending me a lot of requests. It's really getting silly now. So now, baobab is also a tree, and the seed from it, or the oil extracted from the seed, is usually used for skin conditions, usually in beauty treatments, because it reduces fine lines, keeps the skin looking young. So a lot of body butters, skin creams, facial products will have this in it. I've made jewelry with the seeds, but I wanted to at least highlight some of these things as to their healing properties and some of their uses. Lemongrass, we know, is indigenous to different parts of West Africa. It is a good repellent for mosquitoes and other insects, but also has a really refreshing fragrance. It's used in a lot of spiritual baths because it's really uplifting. Some people will use it just as perfume or a good fragrance, but it's basically a tonic herb. So it's really great for enhancing vitality and increasing or promoting longevity. You can cook with it, you can drink it in tea. The essential oil is often used as well, either straight lemongrass or the essential oil citronella. So these are plants that are found on the continent. Some others include buchu. And I really thought I had a color copy of this, but buchu is a really good herb. It's found in, I think these are South African, yeah. This is found in South Africa, indigenous to the Western Cape. But this herb is excellent for bladder and kidney issues. So it's an anti-inflammatory. It's also good for blood pressure. But if you suffer from urinary tract infections or any kind of bladder or kidney issues, buchu is good for. It's a diuretic. It's also good for arthritis and gout. You can use this in tea or extract form. And of course, you can also use it in capsule form. Devil's claw, an excellent herb for pain. So inflammation, pain, spasmodic pain, any kind of musculoskeletal conditions, headaches, menstrual problems. Devil's claw is good for easing pain and increasing mobility. It's also been traditionally used for diabetes as well. So devil's claw. You would use this in tea or extract form as well. And then African potato. Oh, did I, wait. Okay, I think this is out of order. Let's ignore the turmeric handout for a second. I think I got it out of order. Okay, yes. So the African potato comes from the Eastern Cape, right? This has been known as a really powerful immune boosting herb. I actually have ordered some myself. Was not an herb that when I was learning of herbs that I was first familiar with. So this is something I've come across in recent years, in the last maybe 5-7 years ago. And you can easily, find this even outside of the continent, but it's good for boosting the immune system, fighting against cancer, TB, asthma, HIV, any kind of chronic conditions. This is good. And capsule formula seems to be the easiest, way to find it. I'm sure you can probably consume it in other ways. And then South African geranium. If you remember crane's bill, the last herb that I listed from the article I wrote, I said it was in the geranium family. So South Africa has a geranium that is used in healing. And so this one is good for in tincture form, in capsule form, in tea form, but it has good antibacterial and antiviral properties. It's good for chronic respiratory tract infections, bronchitis, sore throat, sinusitis, colds, flu, things like that, okay? And then of course, African ginger. And I think that was the first page. So I got these pages a little mixed up, forgive me for that, but we are familiar with ginger, we've already discussed that. And I know on at least 1 or 2 classes, I know that we had, and I know we have some people who are in Asia or different parts of China, other Asian countries. So I also decided to add in some of the top Chinese herbs. And of course, we know that you don't have to be from there or there. But again, I started pulling some of the handouts that I was using in my overall traditional herbalism class, just to highlight and give exposure to some of the herbs that are from different parts of the world. Ginseng, very common, very well known. It's used, there are many types of ginseng. So ginseng is a whole category. So there's Panax, there's Siberian, there's Korean. There's so many types of ginseng, but in general, we know that it's a tonic herb. It's used to, most people use it just for the aphrodisiac qualities, but it's a tonic herb that just boosts the system in general. But certainly if there's erectile dysfunction or if there's low libido, it's excellent for that. But it's also good for hepatitis, menopausal symptoms, high blood pressure, and other ailments. Angelica or Dangui, I'm not that familiar with this one, but this helps to relax muscles and treats different conditions such as infertility and heart-related ailments. Mushrooms, a whole nother category, again, similar to ginseng. There's so many mushrooms. Now, of course, we know that some mushrooms are poisonous, but we also know that many are healing and have a lot of health benefits, whether it's maitake or shiitake or reishi. There are many different types of mushrooms, and in general, they have a nutritional value, and they have been used to fight off different conditions, boost the immune system. Some will deal with insomnia, fatigue, female dysfunction, and a host of other things. Goji or wolfberry, these are the berries of this plant are used. A lot of times people will add it to their smoothies, whether they have the whole berries or they have it ground up. They'll add the powders to smoothies, cereals, things of that nature. But we know that it protects the eyes, prevents liver damage, protects against cancer, stabilizes blood sugar, depression, anxiety, and sleep. So somebody is not muted. Okay, good. And this Coptis sinensis, also not familiar with this one, but this apparently is a Chinese herb that's pretty popular and is used for diseases of the digestive tract. And licorice root, you can find licorice root here in America. It is indigenous to China, has been used for asthma, hepatitis, depression, colds, flu, things of that nature. Astragalus, we know, is an immune enhancing herb. It's really good for colds and flu. It will help increase your metabolism, increase your digestion. Ephedra, Mawang is pretty popular here. It's in America, it's been used mainly as an appetite suppressant. However, traditionally in Chinese medicine, it was more often used for asthma, as an asthma treatment, but it's also good for colds and hay fever. But it's also an appetite suppressant, but it's also a stimulant herb. So for some people, and then they were making sort of the synthetic version of it called ephedrine, right? And so some years ago here in the States, you had lawsuits where there were people who were suffering from strokes and things of that nature because they were taking it, maybe taking too much, maybe then going to the gym, overexerting themselves, and it was causing issues for people. So they pulled it from the shelves. But used properly in its natural form, not its synthetic form, ephedra has been widely used throughout Chinese medicine and mainly for its respiratory benefits. And then another one that became, I think, had a renewed popularity during COVID is bupleurum. Now, bupleurum it's an important Chinese herb. They've used it for liver disease, ulcers, mental disorders, but it's also really good for respiratory infections. It's good for the flu, bronchitis, pneumonia, fever, diarrhea, and constipation. Okay, so these are just some that I wanted to highlight that come from different parts of the world. But hopefully wherever you are, you can find them. This is the Ayurvedic herbs. Let me not go through these because I know I'm running out of time, and I knew I would do this and spend all the time talking about herbs. I can't help it, but at least you have the information. You'll even see some that kind of cross over. So we know that a lot of these herbs are grown in different parts of the world. So even if some of the initial ones that I mentioned are not readily available to you where you are, know that you may be able to find them or some of these other ones listed under the Indian or Ayurvedic section, or under the Chinese section, or under the West African or South African sections, okay? Pain is a big issue. I wanted to throw this in here. That's probably one of the, that's pain and fevers are usually our telltale signs of, okay, there's something wrong, right? So we can't, turn away from either one. We can't have a disdain for either one because they let us know that there's something going on. If the body, increases its temperature and we have a fever, or we have elevated temperature, we know that the body's trying to fight off something. And that gives us sort of an indication that something's wrong. Same thing with pain. A lot of times we wouldn't know that there's an issue or there's a problem if we didn't feel the pain from it. So embrace pain, but kind of take note of how to address it. What kind of pain is it? What will relieve it? What's the source of it? And then figure out, okay, let me change this situation so that I can create a better environment to where I'm not feeling this pain, right? So if it is a pain, I had a pain in my joint here in my thumb, swole up, kind of hurt my whole wrist and down my forearm. But I knew a little bit about gout, and yes, I self-diagnosed myself. But I knew a little bit about gout. I knew a little bit about foods that cause inflammation. I knew a little bit about how to address those. And I maybe dealt with it for 2 days, but after that, it was gone, thank God, right? So it was a matter of evaluating what I had eaten and what I needed to then take to relieve the pain and draw out or reduce, I should say, the inflammation. And so that's sort of the steps we have to do. Okay, what's happening? What have I done different in my routine? What have I eaten differently? Okay, now what foods will kind of help me, or what herbs or medicines will help me to, clear this situation out? So this handout here talks about some natural pain relievers. And depending on where the pain is, this gives you an idea of what to use in those cases. So that is for you to refer to. I think I even have a different one, yeah. So this is similar, some of the same ones, a couple of different ones listed, but this is just an additional handout that I found, and just know what things will help in different situations so that you kind of have it on hand and can assist yourself and not have to count on, oh, let me see if I can get an appointment. Oh, I hope my doctor can see me. And I don't know how it is where you are in the world, but this part of the world, if you truly had to depend on getting a doctor's appointment, which you might wait 2, 3, 4 months for, you are going to be in trouble. And that's not to say don't go to the doctor. And it's not to say if it's an emergency not to go to the emergency room or, you know, the urgent care place. But if you arm yourself with some knowledge as to, okay, what could this be? While I'm waiting to get an appointment, while I'm waiting, you know, to, you know, get to the urgent care place, or while I'm waiting 6 hours at the ER, what is it that I could be doing that can kind of give me, you know, some relief? These are the things that we have to take, you know, into our own hands. Now, this handout I'm scrolling through, this is just giving you some information about herb safety, some of the precautions, some of the normal doses for children and adults. And so that kind of concludes the herbal section. Homeopathic medicine is a whole nother genre. It's very helpful. It comes with some special instructions. So homeopathy is basically what pharmacology or pharmaceuticals is based off of. And while it only contains natural occurring substances, pharmacology, of course, added chemical, man-made, synthetic substances. But the concept is that like cures like. So in a certain situation, what causes the problem with the right amount and the right dosing will then also alleviate, that same substance will alleviate that condition. And some of the examples will make it clear what I mean by that. But basically with homeopathy, small doses taken frequently is how you administer homeopathy. It can be better if there is an acute situation because you get multiple dosings in a short period of time. And so, and it's taken sublingually so that it gets into your bloodstream faster, so it does not have to be swallowed and digested as with herbal medicine. So that's a big thing, okay? And also the other thing is you take it on what's called a clean mouth. You take it away from food or from brushing your teeth or from drinking anything other than water, okay? So those are sort of the little caveats about homeopathy. But homeopathy is great, worth knowing and learning about, worth having a little kit with multiple homeopathic remedies in it. And they all will have instructions as to what remedy treats with what condition. Okay, so I've listed here, or I found this article that lists here 10 of the more popular homeopathic remedies. So this first one here, Allium cepa, this comes from onion. Okay, so now this explains very well how like cures like. So we know that onions cause tearing in the eyes, right? You might have some droppings from the nose. It kind of brings things out. This same remedy is used for conditions that will cause tearing or nose running, watery eyes, nasal passages that are burning, so on and so forth. So allium is good for hay fever, the common cold, sinus issues, things of that nature, right? Because made properly and taken properly, that same substance in its natural form, in its homeopathic form, is going to treat it. Okay. Other remedies here, things like arnica, you can use it topically or internally, but this remedy is great if you have injured yourself, if you have had some kind of pain from some sort of injury, whether it's a sports injury or you're out working in the yard or what have you. But if you've sprained or strained, you know, a part of your body, this remedy internally will help heal it, topically will give you relief. Chamomilla comes from the chamomile herb. This is a great remedy for children mainly, I, as an adult, don't necessarily take it. It's not strong enough if you really need to kind of calm yourself. Some of the nervine herbs we've mentioned earlier, like skullcap and valerian, are better. But for children, it's really, really great for. If a child or baby has colic, they're teething. I used to give my children chamomile when I would need to travel with them. The first time I took my firstborn on the plane, I gave her some teething tablets, but she wasn't teething. She needed to calm down. I wanted her to sleep so that she wouldn't, get the popping in her ear, or the sensation in her ears from the altitude and things of that nature. So chamomile is good for kind of helping provide relief from stress, but especially with babies and toddlers. Hypericum comes from St. John's wort. We know that St. John's wort is good as an antiviral, and it's also good for depression. So the homeopathic version is good for like nerve types of pain. So if you've pinched your finger or slammed the finger in the door, or maybe some kind of neuropathy or some kind of nerve pain that diabetics sometimes get, or you have some kind of shooting pain down your back or up your leg or something like that, Hypericum is excellent for that. So these are just some of the homeopathic remedies. Magnesium phosphorica, this is a type of magnesium, so this is good for menstrual cramps and things of that nature. This will work a lot better for some people rather than swallowing down some kind of herbal pain reliever. This will get a more direct response. So if you're having some kind of cramping, this will maybe give you more relief quicker. And so several others that are listed, but this is for your information. And then I gave you the natural first aid kit, which highlights homeopathic remedies for those same cuts or insect bites or bruises or eye injuries and things like that if you're out and about or you've injured yourself. Essential oils, I've kind of mentioned some of these already. We know that the aroma of these oils itself can be healing. We know that we can use them in different ways. We may use them in massage oils to help soothe the body through that touch therapy. We may use it in a spray mister just to spray a room and emit the fragrance or the aroma throughout an area to change the mood. We may use it in hair and skin products. We may add it to our baths. We know that we can use them internally as a douche. We may add it to a colonic or a colon hydrotherapy session. There are essential oils like bergamot and fennel that might be added to the water if you're cleansing out the colon with an enema or a colon hydrotherapy. You can use it in mouthwash as a compress. There are many different ways to use the different essential oils. What I would suggest doing here is going through some of these herbs that you've never heard of, that you're not familiar with. I always encourage people to go beyond, even though I love peppermint, even though I love ginger, we've already talked about them, but go beyond the lavender, peppermint, eucalyptus, ginger. Look at what frankincense oil does for the body and spirit. Look at what cinnamon does. We love it as a spice. Look at what it does for the body. It has antiviral, antidepressant properties. It helps with infection. It's very uplifting, right? It charges you physically and psychically, right? So it uplifts your spirit. So we may look at it as just something that smells good or something that we like to put in our apple cider or in our mullein spice, when we're, making, apple cider. So look at some of the other herbs and the oils that come from them and how they can heal the body. Neroli, I always like to highlight because this is one that's good for high blood pressure, for example. That's not listed here, but I happen to know that. It's an antidepressant, it's good for insomnia, it's good for the nerves, it's good for PMS. So some of the ones that you're not as familiar with, I encourage you to really look at and see how it can be beneficial. And you add that to your natural medicine chest, add that to your arsenal, your toolbox, so that you'll have these things on hand. If you're suffering from asthma, or you're congested from a cold, or from bronchitis, or what have you, look into some other oils like cedar. Let me see, is that on here? Yeah, so you may look at cedar wood and combining that with peppermint or eucalyptus, maybe eucalyptus, cypress, and cedar wood if you're having bronchitis or a cough or a cold. So try experimenting with some of these that you're not as familiar with. Know that usually you want to diffuse it, you know, in a, you know, a diffuser and let it, you know, emit the aroma throughout the room. But also know if you're using it topically, you want to dilute it with a carrier oil. And in most cases, you're not going to add it directly to your skin or to your body. You're going to want to mix it with a carrier oil because they're very strong, they're very potent. So you want to dilute it a bit. And even this handout gives you information on how to do that. So that's aromatherapy. And there's so much more that could be said. But again, the point is to give you sort of that information. This handout kind of gives you a more abbreviated view on this. So even in regards to particular conditions, it will tell you quickly what essential oils can be used for what. So if you're looking to be more alert, you'll know to use the citrus ones. Bergamot is from the orange family, by the way. Or you might use grapefruit, right? Or you may use rosemary. Or if you're looking to enhance your mood, you may do lemon or clary sage, right? Or vanilla. If you're looking to induce sleep, then you might do rosemary or marjoram or bergamot or sage, right? So this just gives you sort of a quick reference guide. The last section, superfoods, right? Superfoods is basically highly nutritive foods. So this list, and it's actually two lists, regular foods and then foods that are more like berries and seeds that people will add to, you know, their cereals and smoothies and things. But these are just highly nutritive foods, foods that will have a number of different vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, things like that in it, that will give you a number of different nutrients all packed in one. So these are foods that you want to add to your diet. These are the foods you want to snack on. These are the foods you want to make sure you're including into your meals so that you'll get a full benefit and you'll be fighting off different conditions. You'll be increasing your vitamin and mineral uptake. So we have broccoli, we have avocados, almonds, wheatgrass, salmon, sweet potatoes. There are so many, flax seeds. So there are a number of these superfoods that we can add. Cinnamon, you know, I love cinnamon. And we talked about using the essential oil. Let's add cinnamon to our diet, add it on top of your sweet potato, you know, and just really add those things to get all of the benefits from these various foods. This other part of the list, like I mentioned, these are more so seeds and berries that you would maybe add to cereals, salads, sauces, dressings, and things of that nature. So acai berries, you know, a popular thing here is they have these fruit bowls that have acai, like a fruit puree at the bottom, and then they'll top it with bananas and granola and berries and things like that. Or you have the goji berries themselves, where you'll have it just as a snack, or you may add it, you know, to your smoothies or your other nutritional drinks or what have you. So whatever, you know, suits your needs based on what nutrients it contains and what your diet is like. Seaweed, they have seaweed snacks now, where people will just eat the dried seaweed as a snack as opposed to like chips and things like that. It certainly does not taste like chips, but it is something that has a little crunch to it. Now, some people eat for taste, some people eat for the texture. So some of these things you can really try and add to your diet and know that you're getting some really helpful benefits to it, okay? Chia seeds, mangosteen, a lot of these other things. This is maca powder. So just know that there are a number, cacao or cocoa powder. So all of these foods definitely have a number of healing aspects because of the nutrient density. Colloidal silver is the last thing I'm going to mention. I added it here. It's not really an herb. This is ionized silver, and it's known as the first antibiotic, and it has multiple uses, right? So it combats fungus in the body, kills disease, viruses, harmful bacteria, and improves the immune system, allows the body the ability to fight against viruses. It soothes any skin issues, burns, broken skin, wounds, sores, things of that nature. Helps the body heal from surgeries, from illnesses, from any number of things. You can use it, of course you would dilute it, but you can use it in your nebulizer or your diffuser. You can use it in a nasal spray, eye wash, a mouth rinse, or a gargle. You can use it in your ear if there's issues. It can be used topically and internally for a number of conditions. So I highly recommend that. And the last page is just sort of a review. You know, if you're studying, and when I send these packets at the top of the week, if you go through, you kind of get whatever notes you can take from yourselves. You can use this back page. Usually for most of the sections, I put some kind of last page where we're talking about giving an overview, or where you can put notes or questions or things that you may have. And you can go from there. So I didn't get a chance to really go through the questions. Feel free to, I didn't look at any of these chats, but yes, I tried to continue on. Let me write my email, because as usual, if you need the handouts or if you have a question, Nana Akua1, you can certainly send to me. But thank you all for listening in. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate you. I love you. I bid you good health and peace, and have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Nana Akua. Have a great weekend too. On next, we're going to have Dr. Tyreen Wright for Pan-African Organizing History class. Yes, Dr. Wright, how are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm actually out today while I'm supposed to be teaching, so you'll see me momentarily. One moment, though. I'm sorry, everyone. Okay, so you're catching me out, and I plan to actually be in, but we have a storm here. Okay, so welcome everyone. What I'm gonna do is go right to the document. So you had a film that you all were supposed to watch today, or during the week. It's called The Journey of Man, A Genetic Odyssey. And some of you may have wondered why I would assign such a film. The reason I assigned the film is so that we could recenter the conversation around what it means to be human. And it's a perfect time to have that conversation because basically with all that's going on in the world, that needs to be reiterated, right? That human doesn't mean European. Human doesn't mean non-African. Human, for most of the time that human beings have existed, has meant African. Okay, so if you got nothing else from the film, you should have got that from it, that the conversation around who is human starts and ends with African people on the continent of Africa. Okay, and Spencer Wells, what he is doing, while he's not my favorite, I have no, I'm not partial to him in any way, but the film is a tool to recenter the conversation around, humanity and identity, right? So basically the idea is that humanity began in Africa. Humanity is African and therefore Black for most of the time that human beings existed, which is for the last 2 to 300,000 years on Earth. Okay, let me say that again: 2 to 300,000 years on Earth, humanity has been distinctively African. Okay, so that was the point of introducing such a film. Not because Spencer Wells is any special person, but he does the DNA mapping that affirms the theory that humanity began in Africa and then was experienced or moved and migrated to the rest of the corners of the world. So that was the point of showing that. I'm gonna probably go to a small clip in it, but I really wanted to introduce what would normally have been our first document for the course, which is chapter 2 of the Washington and Africa book. It's called Washington and Africa. And this chapter in particular, I hope you guys can't hear all the wind out here. This chapter introduces a working definition of Pan-Africanism, along with the early history of Pan-Africanism as it becomes a concept in the world. So I'm going to share that now. Actually, if you're in the groups right now, you probably already saw the document being shared. And I'm going to begin with that. You will see me during this session. It's just that I literally got caught in a storm and I'm trying to get out of it. And I'm moments away from getting out of it. But meanwhile, we don't stop here. And I love Black people. We actually keep it moving and do what we got to do. Okay, so I'm going to share that document. Let me see, 1 second. I have permission to share my screen, right? Yes, Alex?
Yes, you can share your screen.
Oh, okay, Yvonne, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So actually for some of you, it's already in there. And I will just open up to it. Okay. So.
Hello, Dr. Wright. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
sorry folks, I'm back. That was like a glitch where I'm at. We're having a storm up here where I'm at, actually. So, and I'm literally caught out in it. But okay, here we go. So I'm about to share a document. Screen. Okay. So those of you who have seen the document in there, please just posted it. So here's the document. And basically, this is one of the chapters of the book, Booker T. Washington in Africa, The Making of a Pan-Africanist. This is chapter 2. And the chapter frames the discourse around the history of Pan-Africanism. And let me be clear, I don't even just use this book because I wrote this particular, I'll put it this way, I don't use this because I wrote this book. I use this because I needed to have a condensed version of the history of Pan-Africanism in a very global way that basically included the Caribbean, the African continent, the United States, and all of the people who were contributing to the context of Pan-Africanism at that moment in time. So in other words, just in the same way you can have an issue that's prevalent and you have many people who are in tune with it, like right now, everybody's talking about Ukraine. Well, the reality is that that is how the history of Pan-Africanism is in terms of the African world. We can all be on the same page about an issue, right? So ultimately, this chapter does that. So I'm glad I sort of did it this way because you're introduced to the topic with guidance, okay? So the chapter opens up with a quote. And I wanted to break it down because please don't be put off or essentially confused by the fact that we're used to this conversation. Understand why. However, what we're looking for the open.
Sorry, Dr. Wright, you're breaking up. We can't hear you well. Hello, Dr. Wright, can you hear us? Hello, Dr. Wright? Yes, I think she's facing internet issues, but she will come back. Dr. Wright, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
All right, I thought you all could hear me. All
No,
right,
you
so
were on mute.
I thought you could hear me. You can give me the share again. You can give me permission to share again.
Yes, you're allowed.
Okay. All right. Can you see my screen again?
Yes,
Can you
we
see
can,
my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, good. So basically, this quote frames the chapter to basically discuss the context that Washington is talking about. Before I went out, I was saying that Pan-Africanism in the way we know it, for better or worse, was not common knowledge. And the term itself was budding and new, okay? So here you have Washington, a likely figure, talking about the concept, right? The very essence of what it means to be Pan-Africanist, which is to recognize scattered children of Africa, but then on top of that, understand our common struggle, okay? So the quote that frames the chapter is, "There is, however, a tie which few white men can understand, which binds the American Negro to the African Negro, which unites the Black man of Brazil and the Black man of Liberia, which is constantly drawing into closer relations all the scattered African peoples, whether they are in the old world or the new." I have rarely met in America anyone of my race who did not, in one way or another, a deep interest in everything connected with Africa. The millions of Negroes in America are almost as much interested, for example, in the future of Liberia.
Hello, Dr. Wright, can you hear us? She's having problems with the internet, but she's joining again. Okay.
Okay, so I'm not going to share my screen anymore until I actually walk in, but you got the context for that quote. Basically, Washington is saying that there is a common bond that binds African people, whether in Haiti, Jamaica, Africa, or the United States. And so it speaks to our condition as it relates to white supremacy and culture, which has spanned the world, unfortunately, but only in the last 400 to 500 years. Okay, so that is the context of this chapter. This chapter revisits that moment in time in history around 1900. And we're going to start. I'm going to read the most important moment in the chapter, and then you all will be reading it this week. But there's a page or two in the chapter which recalls and does a roll call of all the Pan-Africanists at that time, all coming together from all of those locales to be unified around a concept And I might have mentioned it last week. Part of what we will learn is a working definition of Pan-Africanism. And Pan-Africanism is defined by several of the proponents at the first Pan-African Conference is essentially unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation of African people everywhere we are. Okay? Unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation of African people. And we can say that naturally includes Black people because a natural characteristic of being African is to have melanin. And in a racial society that is defined as Blackness, right? But we're so much more than Blackness. So you will repeatedly hear me say African and then, Black. That being said, in the conference in 1900, that would be the consistent theme. So last week when I lectured, just to begin, I said something to the effect that Pan-Africanism is not just coming together. African people from all those locales just mentioned in that quote, coming together. It is African people coming together to remedy our condition, okay? So we can come together, but if it is not with the intention, vision, and mission to remedy our condition, then it is not considered Pan-Africanism. Okay, so that is the point of it all. So this chapter 1 defines Pan-Africanism. 2 revisits the historical context that it took place in. And 3 introduces you to the proponents of Pan-Africanism during that moment in history and shortly thereafter. Okay, so that is the purpose of this particular reading and chapter. And those of you, most of the groups got it. We have a lot of people enrolled in the course this time around. Not too many attending on Saturdays, but a lot of people enrolled in the course. So I'm going to go back in because I had a document issue this week, but I will be going back in and sharing this chapter as I will be in the near future sharing the other chapters via WhatsApp. Okay, so don't worry too much if you haven't seen what I'm talking about. It's still a little glitch, but I could at least get it in there after a lot of tries and reloading the app. So I'm going to share once again, and I'm indoors now. I'm out of that storm, so you will see me in a second. But the concept that we're going to cover here is just this little bit of history that I just mentioned. So if you would let me share one more time, Yvonne, that would be good. And
yes, you are allowed.
Okay. All right. So those of you who are watching and can see this, you see the chapter in the group there, just click on it and you can go right to it. And what we're going to cover this time around, so this was the quote I just stated, and then this is the chapter that we are going to cover. And I just want to go to one particular point in it. Okay, 1 second, I'm sorry. so this, okay, here we go, right here. So this part in the chapter, by the way, while I do this, some of you ordered the book. I hope you're on here today. So John Aiden's, and can you still see my screen, Yvonne?
No, we can't see a screen.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I needed to start it again. John Aiden's in this group, he ordered the book. So your book has gone out along with a couple of other people who ordered the book. So I usually have help with that. And so I'm not always the person who sends it out, but if you have ordered a book or something and you didn't get it, you can message me in here like John Aiden's did, and I will make sure that you get it and put my hands into the process and send it out myself. So I don't know, Mr. Aiden's, if you're on here, then you should expect your book in a day or two. And I think I gave you an extra book just for the hiccup. Okay. I have some people who ordered the book who are from out of the country. I wouldn't encourage that. The book is going to be in digital form in a little while. So I would wait for that and be ebook form. I would not order it internationally, just benefit from the chapters that I share here, because that is a big problem. Sometimes getting it shipped there internationally is a little more difficult than it should be. So I wouldn't advise doing that. Take advantage of the chapters that I do share here until the ebook is available. Okay. So now that we should be back, you should see my screen, or you should be, you should be able to see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so here we go. This particular portion is very important. This chapter gives you a roll call, and we should know the roll call of the Pan-Africanist during that time, who would be a part of the first Pan-African conference and part of the construction of the idea, right? Think of it as a chorus of voices that were coming together at that moment in time in history and saying, we want Pan-Africanism, or we need Pan-Africanism. We need unity to advocate for ourselves during this colonial and imperialist period where Europeans, almost nowhere where Africans were, was untouched by European colonialism or imperialism. And so this coming together was not just, African people from the United States or Henry Sylvester Williams from Trinidad or anything like that. This was African people around the world, agreeing that we need to forge unity for the purpose of eradicating our oppression everywhere we are. Right? So that is, it's important thing. And it gives you names of people who actually were a part of that. Okay, so let me just read some of it to you. And I don't like to read, but let me just read this particular part to you. Prior to the first Pan-African Conference, 19th and early 20th century Pan-Africanism in the US was espoused and practiced by individuals like Bishop Henry McNeill Turner, who had already traveled to Africa, by the way, Martin Delaney, Edward Blyden, who also had his hands in Africa already, Henry Highland Garnett, Alexander Crummell. But as early as 1829, David Walker's appeal reflected on the history of African civilization and made a connection between those in Africa and Africans scattered abroad. His appeal not only aimed to challenge the institution of slavery, but to educate the masses on African history and culture. Pan-Africanists among the African population in the Caribbean included the initiator of the first Pan-African Conference, Henry Sylvester Williams of Trinidad, Marcus Garvey's mentor, J. Robert Love, and Dr. J. Albert Thorne from Barbados. But decades prior to their emergence, the Haitian Revolution occurred and bolstered Pan-African consciousness in the diaspora as well. Haiti would produce Benito Sylvain and Antenor Furman, both who met Booker T. Washington in 1897 and attended the first Pan-African Conference in 1900. Out of Haiti came a wing of Pan-Africanists who created literary discourse on diasporic philosophies on Africa. The African population in Haiti produced Jean Prince Mars and Louise Joseph, who repeatedly explained that Haiti was the embodiment of the irresistible force of a united Africa. Pan-Africanists had a dialectic characteristic to it. So Pan-Africanism had a dialectical characteristic to it, which allowed historic events like the Haitian Revolution to produce a response and rise in consciousness amongst African people internationally. Similarly, in 1896, the Ethiopian victory over Italian imperialist forces in the Battle of Ottawa also bolstered the connection between diasporic Africans and those on the continent, I should say, of Africa. The social climate and consciousness of the African diaspora in the Western Hemisphere and throughout the world produced two of the most prolific Pan-Africanists, W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey. Each of these men had important relationships and exchanges with Booker T. Washington. Garvey's relationship with Washington would open the doors both literally and figuratively to the first mass organization of the African world through the Universal Negro Improvement Association. However, Washington's relationship with Du Bois would be inconsequential to the progress of Pan-Africanism. The relationship between Washington, the apparent accommodationist, and Du Bois, the Pan-Africanist scholar activist, has shaped African-American social and political history in the US for at least a century. Booker T. Washington, Du Bois, and Marcus Garvey would all function differently as Pan-Africanists. The methods they employed varied, but like previous Pan-Africanists, they all had one singular objective beyond unity, which was to advance the plight of African people in the face of oppression. Okay, so that right there is a little bit of a roll call that you will experience in the context of that discourse on Pan-Africanism in that chapter. Okay, I'm trying to give, okay. So here I am, folks. After battling the elements, I'm here. But so we forge ahead, but that right there, that chapter internalize or brings home the idea or just the history of Pan-Africanism as it's developing in the world at that moment in time. So that was just a roll call to sort of conjure and just revisit all of the proponents of Pan-Africanism. And at the end of the chapter, if you've never seen Booker, if you've never seen Du Bois or Garvey, there are pictures of them at the end of there. And for those who are in the groups, because we have about like four sections of this course this time around. If you don't see that document I was just sharing, don't worry, I'm going to reshare it so that everyone has it. And all the documents are in PDF format. So you'll be able to compile them on your own and share them going forward. But that in essence is the chapter on Pan-Africanism. It's called Booker T. Washington, Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanists. This is the book. No need to buy it, especially don't buy it if you're international, because I'm going to be sharing a lot of the chapters, the key chapters in it. But that is chapter 2. And the point of sharing that is to, 1, give you a working definition of Pan-Africanism, 2, give you the history, right? So you know the proponents of Pan-Africanism at that moment in time. 3, to understand and drive home the point that the very nature of Pan-Africanism is that we come together not to have fun, not to buy stuff from each other per se, not to perform, not to have a good time, but to organize around our condition, right? That is the purpose. So when we come together and we're not coming together for the purpose of eradicating our oppression and exploitation, then that is not Pan-Africanism. Okay? If you learn nothing else, you should learn that, right? When we come together and the vision and mission and objective of us coming together is to strategize around our oppression and exploitation, then that is Pan-Africanism. And this chapter should not only give you that working definition, give you the historical context through which this concept emerged and the historical proponents, like the roll call as we just did, and also identify the variations of Pan-Africanism as it related to the proponents. So in other words, Garvey would use the Universal Negro Improvement Association to advance Pan-Africanism. Du Bois would be the scholar activist, right? Who initiates the Pan-African Congresses, okay? And the Pan-African Congresses would produce a body, a think tank that consistently works towards strategizing around the condition of African people and eventually produces the OAU, right? It is within the context of the Pan-African Congresses that Du Bois initiates that the OAU is born, which is the setting for Nkrumah and others to say that we must have continental unity, not individual liberation of African countries, right? He talks about that in the liberation of Ghana, that the liberation of Ghana is inconsequential unless it leads to the total liberation of the African continent, right? So that is Du Bois's contribution, his initiation of the intellectual struggle, the scholar in the activist struggle, right? Direct protest. That is Du Bois. And then you have Washington, whose philosophy around Pan-Africanism is different than both Du Bois and Garvey. His is a more material strategy. In other words, his philosophy is independence through industry. Okay? Independence through industry, which means economic power. And as much as people may shrug at that, every time we get in trouble here, we always talk about hitting them in the pockets. White supremacy and culture, boycott them, don't pay them, don't give them your money, right? Because we know capitalism has to be fed, right? So Washington's philosophy is independence through industry. And I'll share a little bit as we go forward about his strategy. But all of them had different strategies with the same ultimate objective, right? Eliminating the oppression and exploitation of African people and unifying African people in order to do so. So our relationships are constructive, not destructive, right? So we get together at my house or your house to drink and have a party. That's not Pan-Africanism, right? We get together to strategically, to strategically plan on how we are going to, and work on how we're going to struggle against white supremacy and culture and our oppression and exploitation as a result of that, that's Pan-Africanism. So when people talk about critiquing Pan-Africanism, which you might have heard in the public realm, you know, we have people who are like, well, what does Pan-Africanism has ever done for us? Hasn't done it. Well, no, Pan-Africanism, the very nature of Pan-Africanism is to get together to do something for us. The things you're talking about that people have dubbed Pan-Africanism did not produce anything for us. Thinking that just because we're all Black and came together, that that's Pan-Africanism is wrong. That is not Pan-Africanism. Okay, absolutely not. So I just wanted to drive that home. I hope you guys, sorry about the first half of this session. I definitely got caught out in the elements and it's still consistently snowing here. You all will, those of you who didn't see the chapter in there, I'm gonna resend the chapter and even resend the syllabus because I'm still having a little technical issue about sending documents. I had to unload and reload the app. But it's a little bit better. I can like do it with several tries. That being said, this chapter is what you're reading this week. I hope you watched the film already. The Journey of Man, a Genetic Odyssey. We can talk about that just a little bit, but this chapter is what you're reading. And then you will also be getting new readings for the following week. But I wanted there to be particular focus on this chapter, our first week in, because of the simple fact that if you get nothing else from this, you should get the core concept of Pan-Africanism, the core working definition of Pan-Africanism, a core understanding that this is not the first time that we're doing this. That's why the mention of all the proponents of it and the nuances between the expressions of Pan-Africanism with that consistent line that it is for the purpose of eradicating our oppression and exploitation and advancing African people everywhere we are. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. If there's any questions, comments, I'm going to take them. All right, I've had to unload and reload so many times that I don't see any comments there. So that's actually a good thing because I'm pretty sure I'm out of time. But thank you all for hanging in there. Those of you who were able to hang in there through the snowstorm I was in. And we will be back next week. It'll be a little easier. I will be stationary. And I look forward to your comments with regard to this week's chapter. Okay. All righty, folks. Thank you very much. I am because we are. And I will see you next week and stay safe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wright.
All right, thank you.
The rest of your weekend, I am because we are.
Thank you. All righty, bye-bye.
Bye.